Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia. An absolute fabulous place to live, and BC is an absolute beautiful province. Today, a very special day and a very special guest. The guest name is Jenn Drummond, and she is from Parksville, Utah. And Jenn has an amazing story that she will tell us about. And she got caught in a car accident 5 years ago. She would have never imagined that it would inspire her to a world record, and she'll tell us all about that. An amazing lady, and with and a little bit of the story is 7 children, and she'll tell us about them, and then connected to 7 peaks, which is extremely interesting. Jenn, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here today.
So I don't know where to start, but we'll figure it out. But when I read your biography and your background, amazing determination, and you lived in Parksville, Utah, and some things happened to you, a car accident, which could virtually have killed you because it was a very serious one. Tell us a little bit about it. And then the other part that happened to you, that a friend of yours running misstepped, fell, and died. The combination of all of it triggered you to the 7 peaks. So tell us about it.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So in 2018, I was driving home to my hometown in Park City, Utah, and I was paying attention to the reservoir on the side, and all of a sudden my attention got pulled back to the highway, and I realized I was coming up fast on a semi-truck. So I looked in my rearview mirror to get out of its way. I went to get out of its way, and I didn't make it. I was so close, but the corner of the back of the semi-trailer and my passenger side headlight hit. I remember telling myself, okay, the only way I'm going to survive this accident is if I roll with it. So keep my hands on the steering wheel, my head on the headrest, and just breathe and relax as much as possible.
Right.
So I went 1 flip, 2 flips, and I kept thinking, man, I have enough momentum to do 3 flips. And then the car started doing these sideways turns to burn off energy. And I finally came to a stop in the median. An individual came running to me. He's like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Took me a few minutes to recognize he was talking to me. He peeled back the windshield and he asked me again, are you okay? And I looked at his face, and based on his facial expression, I'm like, I don't know if I'm okay. I'm afraid to look.
Exactly.
So I closed my eyes and I wiggled my fingers and toes. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I can feel my fingers and toes. I can feel my fingers and toes. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And he kind of laughed because those were the words that came out of my mouth. He stayed with me until the ambulance came. I went to the hospital to be looked over. The hospital released me a few hours later. And I got home, looked at my 7 children, and was just in awe that I almost never got to see them again.
So was there an airbag or airbags in the car that helped, obviously, in the process?
Yes, I was so lucky. The car that I had has a Formula One type race car airbag system.
Right.
So I had airbags go off to keep my legs in place, my head in place, my arms in place. Like it cocooned me. And that's really what saved me. I actually got a phone call from the police about 4 weeks after the accident. And they said, they're like, we have tried to rebuild this accident 50 different ways. We cannot build a scenario where you survive, let alone walk away unscathed. He's like, buy that car for the rest of your life. I said, okay, perfect.
Was it a Porsche?
Yes, it was. It was a Porsche Cayenne.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I highly recommend them. I have friends that have rolled vehicles and they've come out naturally, like unscathed. It's unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah.
You still have one?
Yeah, I still have one. Yes, I
Okay,
do. I'm
good.
staying with that car for life. Don't you
Yeah,
worry.
yeah.
So, yeah. So, anyways, my friend was going for a run, and she asked me to go that day. I said, no, I have to get the kids. I've got too much going on. Have a good time. It's a little wet out. She was running. It was damp. Somehow hit, like, slipped on a rock and hit her head just the wrong way and never got to come home. And so you
Ooh,
have this sequence of these two events, right? Like my horrific car crash that I should have never
exactly.
survived.
Yeah,
She's doing something healthy that we're all encouraged to do and doesn't get to come home. And I just didn't have a place for it in my head. And the only thing that I came up with was I do not get to choose when I die, but I
yeah,
sure get to choose how I live. And
exactly.
I need to start choosing how I live because I was put on this planet for a reason. I was saved for a reason. My purpose in life is to figure out what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So fast forward a little bit, 2019 was this big year of rediscovery. Who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? I made a long bucket list of activities that I wanted to do. It's going to take me 4 lifetimes at least to get them all done. And on that list was climbing a mountain. And I was turning 40 in 2020. So I decided that I was going to climb a mountain to launch my next decade of life. And I asked some friends that were into mountaineering, if you could climb one mountain in the whole world, what mountain would it be? And the general consensus was a mountain named Ama de Blanc. So Ama de Blanc is located in Nepal.
Yeah,
It's the Paramount Pictures logo. It means the mother's necklace. Like I have 7 kids. This sounds perfect. So I'm like, I'm going to climb Ama de Blanc. That would be a great mountain for my 40th birthday.
yeah,
But then COVID hits,
yeah.
and I'm a homeschool teacher to
For 2 years.
7 children.
Yeah,
Yes. So, I mean, lucky for me, though, I wasn't quite affected for 2 years, but I'm all of a sudden helping one of my sons with his math homework. And he's cranking and complaining. I'm like, listen, buddy, we do hard things. You've got this.
right,
And he looks at me and he goes, if we do hard things, why are you climbing a mountain called I'm a Dumb Blonde instead of a real mountain like Mount Everest?
right.
I said, honey, the mountain's name is Ama de Blanc, not I'm a Dumb Blonde. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So then I'm like, you finish your homework. We'll look at Everest.
Yeah,
We looked at Everest. He went to bed. I was still looking at Everest. And I thought, you know what? I only get one chance to live. Maybe I should climb Everest. If Everest is this big, huge goal that my son thinks is amazing, I'm going to show him that we can climb whatever our Everest is. And I'm going to climb the physical one. And so I called a coach and I was climbing Everest and Ama de Blanc within the week. The
now, now,
coach, go
now,
ahead. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
now you were already in pretty good shape, right? Because
I
that is
wasn't.
not, no, you weren't?
I
You,
was. I was
yeah,
in good shape.
because you kind of looked to me like it's, that's a large, big undertaking, and you must already have. And I probably read that in some of your bio as well, that you already had done some climbing in the region to a certain extent.
So I did one mountain
Okay,
before
okay,
named the Grand Teton in Jackson Hole.
okay,
It's like the Tetons are a gorgeous mountain range. I'd
yes,
done it, and I just remember like I that was such a great feeling. That's why I wanted to climb another mountain that was bigger for my birthday.
right,
And I did have a very strong fitness background. I used to play soccer in college.
right.
I did triathlons for a while, so it wasn't like I was going from sofa to Everest.
No, no, no.
No. But I had a year. Like I was planning on it's going to take me a year to train for Everest and this will be fine. And my coach gave me a book about becoming an uphill athlete and how you train to do uphill sports. And in the front of the book, there was a lady who had gotten a Guinness World Record for doing something in the Alps.
Right.
And I just remember thinking, I could have done that. Like, I can suffer. And if I got a Guinness World Record, my children would think I'm the coolest mom ever.
Yeah.
Because this homeschool thing is not a cool mom. I am not a
Yeah.
cool mom right now.
Yeah.
So then my coach was like, well, I'll find you something. I'm like, okay, fine, but I'm not growing pumpkins or speed eating hot dogs or growing long fingernails or any of those weird things.
No.
And he called me a few weeks later. He goes, Jen, I have the perfect record for you. I think you should become the first woman to climb the second 7 summits or 7 second summits. I'm like, what are those? I don't even know what that is. And he's like, it's the second highest point on each continent. It's been done by one male. They're harder than the first 7. They've never been done by a female. And let's be honest, 7 continents, 7 mountains, 7 children. It's a jackpot. You should do it.
Unbelievable.
I know. So I said yes. I'm like, let's try it. Let's see what happens. If it's never been done before and I don't make it, okay, whatever. I tried.
So what did
And
the kids think about all of that? Saying,
oh my, they loved it. They
yeah,
loved it. Yeah, definitely. Especially because when I climbed Everest, I went to the kids' school and I told the teachers, like, hey, I'm going to be gone for 3 or 4 weeks. I've never been gone this long before. I have grandma coming and some other people helping, but this is a new thing for my family. Just give them a little extra grace. And then the teachers came back and said, hey, listen, let's do a What's Your Everest campaign. Why don't you
yeah,
come in and teach the kids about goal setting? They'll color little hikers, and in the hallway, they'll say, my Everest goal is, and then in the front of the school, they made a big mountain and they had me as a little hiker and I had a tracking device with me. So the kids could move me up and down the mountain depending on where I was. So now all of a sudden, all the kids are like checking in with my kids. Hey, this is where your mom is, or here's what's going on, or da 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 da. And when I summited, it was like the whole school summited. Like all those little kids were with me. And it was just this magical experience.
yeah. And it supported you at the same time, right?
Yes, right, right.
Can
I
you,
tell people if you want to do big mountains, you need big teams.
right.
The bigger the mountain, the bigger the team. And I had a huge team supporting me, which allowed me to be present where I was, allowed my kids to be loved on when I wasn't there, and we all benefited.
Can you share with us the names of your children and their ages?
Yes. Okay. So their ages now. I have my oldest is Jack.
Okay.
He's 16. I have Joe, who's 15. I have Jacob, who's 14. I have Jonathan, that's 13. I have Joshua, who's 11. And I have Jana and Julia, who are 10.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's a big family. And then you were homeschooling them and at the same time getting ready to become a world champion
Yeah.
climbing the second summits in 7 continents.
Yes.
How
Yes.
how did so now you had the plan. You
Yes.
started in Chile?
I
This is
started in Chile, yep, in
yeah,
2020.
yeah,
So Chile opened first,
right,
right? Because I was climbing right after COVID, a
right,
lot of the climbs depended on not only what season I was in, but what country was open.
right.
So Chile opened and I went to Chile first, and then Africa opened. So I went to Africa and I climbed Everest. And then I went to Pakistan to climb K2, but I didn't summit the first time.
So Everett meaning K2?
So Everest was first and then K2. I did
Okay,
Everest to train for K2.
okay. So and so what? So you did Chile. That was in
Yes.
2020,
Yes.
and then you. So how did you feel when you did it? It was also how was about 22,000 feet,
Yeah.
22,615.
Yeah.
That's high. That is big. So how did
It
you
was pretty
feel
big.
after?
I
Because
did good.
you had never been
I'd
that
never been that
high.
high.
At what point does oxygen become an issue? 12,000 feet and above or more higher?
So for some people, it could be as low as 10.
Okay.
Like if an airplane is in distress, it will drop down to 10,000 feet to help people with oxygen.
Right.
But I did really well. I live at altitude in Park City, Utah. So my altitude here is just under 7,000 feet.
Okay.
So then that helps me because I'm acclimatizing a little bit better than somebody at sea level. And then when you climb mountains like that, we climbed other ones nearby to
Right.
acclimatize. So
Okay.
you go up to maybe 18,000 feet and then you'll come back down to 12,000 feet and then your
Okay.
body changes,
Okay.
right? It physiologically changes and starts to make more red blood cells so
Right.
that you can go higher up with less oxygen.
Okay. So, and do you have also oxygen available if you need it?
Um,
And
we
or
must have had it on Chile if somebody needed it,
right.
but typically that would only be an emergency situation.
Okay.
You
Okay.
would know if you're running into problems. Like one of the girls on our team, she did not summit. Like she ran into oxygen problems and just had to turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you came back from Chile
Yeah.
and you felt pretty good, right? So and
I
thought,
did.
okay, now you were getting ready for the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, I was.
And that was where?
That was in Africa. So the second one was Mount Kenya,
Yeah.
which is a rock climb. So
Right.
you're wearing a harness and rock climbing shoes, and it's very vertical.
And it's 17,000 feet, 17,057, I guess. I marked it down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so it's not so much the height, but most of these particular mountains, the reason that you were only the second one to do this, or the first woman to do this, is that they can be more difficult than the other ones because the other ones have been done so often and the different levels have been all established. But if you do it for the first time and become the first woman, and for that matters, even the first man before you, that means that it is all virgin territory, really, that has not been traveled.
Yeah, and you also have just different topography. So when you look at Kilimanjaro, which is the highest point in Africa, you can modify a wheelchair and you can eventually make it to the top.
Right,
But when you climb Mount Kenya, which is the second highest point, you cannot do it in a wheelchair. Like you are rock climbing. It is a 20 pitch rock climb. So it's much more technical.
right,
And the interesting thing about Africa and Mount Kenya is that it's at the equator. So you have exactly 12 hours of light during the
right,
day,
right,
and then the sun sets. And you do not want to be climbing these mountains like this without sun.
right,
So you're racing the clock when you're climbing Mount Kenya because it's a 1 day climb. There
right,
is a spot that you could camp out on the mountain if you needed to and got stuck in bad weather.
right.
But other than that, like you're doing up and down in the same day, where Kilimanjaro, you'll move to different camps to climb.
So now you getting ready, say, for instance, in Kenya. So
Mhm.
you have a team behind you to a certain extent, I presume, and then you figure out what time of year is best from a weather
Yeah.
perspective. All of
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. So Mount Kenya is typically summited between December and February.
Okay.
After that, it's a bad season because the weather changes and it's not safe. So yeah, I was climbing at the end of the weather window for sure.
So you came down from there,
Yep.
and then you took another pause.
Hmm.
How did it feel when you came down from there? Did you think, oh, this is okay, a little bit of recovery, but I can do this still? Or did you think,
Yeah. No, no, I'll be honest, like I liked Mount Kenya because it was fun. Like the you had different sections. You had the gates of mist, you had the climb, you had the rappels, you had the people in Kenya are beautiful humans, right? All of that contributes to your experience.
right,
Um, I knew Mount Kenya was going to be one of the more technical ones, so that felt good to get done.
right,
And then I came home back to the States for a couple months. And then I went to climb Everest, which is not a second summit. right? Everest was a chance for me to train and figure out how well I do at that altitude, right? Because some people can go to 22,000 feet and have no problem. And they get to 23 and they're done. You
Yeah.
just do not know how your body's going to adapt.
This one is 28,000 feet, right? At
Everest
Mount
is
Everest?
29,000 feet.
29,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so how did that go?
Everest was great, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Everest is such an amazing mountain. They've commercialized it.
Right.
So if you had to climb Everest back in the 80s, it would be one of the hardest mountains in the whole world to climb. Like, I can't
Right.
even imagine it. But nowadays, because so many people want to climb it, you pay a pretty hefty climbing permit fee, but
Right.
that permit fee covers a whole bunch of support on the mountain.
Right.
So, for example, that ice fall that you have to start through on the Nepalese side, they have a team of Sherpa that go through that ice fall twice a day, and they make sure the ropes are good, they make sure the ladders are good, they make sure everything's safe for people to go through. And so then you can go through it and you can come back down. If you had to figure out where to go, carry the ladders, make the navigation decisions, it would take you forever.
I still remember, I think, that I'm 83, so going way back in Holland, that the first time that somebody climbed Mount Everest, and I think it was a fellow from Australia, he's dead now, I'm sure, but, and it was quite something. The other part about it, that looking at YouTube, is that the mountain in which a lot of people died
Yeah.
from climbing?
So Everest had an earthquake back
Right.
in 2015, and so then there's a lot of people that died that year.
Okay.
K2 had a Serac fall way back when, and a lot of like for the longest time when you climbed K2, you had a 25% chance of dying on the way down.
That's not
The
good.
stats are so bad. Yeah, they're so against you. K2 is so much harder than Everest. They're two entirely different mountains.
So, what are the challenges more so in K2 than the other one?
Yeah, so Everest, you're walking most of it. Like it's
Right,
just your one foot in front of the other, one foot in
right,
front of the other. K2 has climbing features. So you're moving up it with your hands on the chimney section, on the Black Pyramid section, and there's a couple other areas that might be stuck climbing based on what the ice is doing that year. Also, K2 is much more rocky.
right.
And so it's interesting when you're climbing K2, it can feel like playing that game of Frogger where rocks are falling down and you have to avoid them.
Oh
And
my,
because I know it's crazy, and
yeah,
because K2 is so steep, like a tiny rock, like a pebble that would be smaller than you'd put in your landscaping stuff,
right.
if that starts falling from K2, it gets momentum. It can cut your jacket and cause you to get stitches
Oof,
because it has so much momentum and it's going so fast.
right,
And they sound like bullets. They'll be like zoom, zoom. And you're like, where is that coming from? I can't even see it. So K2 is just different. It's an entirely different experience.
and then the height again at 29,000 feet, no
Yeah.
oxygen then? Or how
I
did,
used oxygen. I
yeah,
did. I
yeah,
used oxygen. It takes longer for your body to acclimatize without oxygen.
right,
It's harder to stay warm without
right,
oxygen. Like oxygen actually keeps your blood warm and helps you keep your extremities safe from frostbite.
right,
So for me, I didn't care to do it without oxygen. People who
right.
do, I think that's fantastic. I have 7 children at home, and it was just too much risk for me to take.
Exactly. So at the same time, then again, there was support from on that climb as well. From yeah,
Yeah, so the nice thing about K2 and Everest is you have huge teams there.
right,
So they're helping set up tents, they're setting up all the ropes, they're melting your water and helping you make dinner. You just show up.
right,
I mean, it's wonderful. Some of the climbs that I'm on, we're setting the route, we're making weather decisions, we're building the tents, we're melting the water, all the pieces. So some of the bigger mountains are so nice because you're well taken care of.
right, right. So then from there on, you want
Yeah.
to
Went to Russia.
Russia, of all
Yeah.
places.
Yes. So the
How,
second highest point in Europe is Diktow, which is located in Russia. It's a pretty technical climb. And what happens is like you partner up with a guide and you're on the same rope as each other. And if one of you makes a mistake, you're both trying to stop yourselves from falling off the mountain and protecting each other. I had curated a whole bunch of gear to climb Russia, and the airline lost all of it.
oh no.
I was terrible. I wanted to cry. I was like, no, 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 no. I ordered 20 pairs of gloves. I
Oh
mailed 19 pairs back. So I had the perfect pair. And you're telling me you don't know where it is? Like, that's not okay.
my God. Yeah.
I know. So then I had a choice. When I got to the airport, they said, okay, Jen, you can go home or we can go to a rental store and we'll try to help you rent gear and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not spending any more time in an airport. Like, let's go to a rental store. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out. We went to a rental store. I had to rent a jacket where we had to roll up the sleeves because it was too big. I had to wear a backpack that we like tied with a rope so it wouldn't fall off my shoulders. I wore boots that were like 3 sizes too big.
Oh
And I
my
kept
God.
telling myself, whatever I learn, I learn. We're
Right.
not going to summit. That's okay. We're going to learn.
Right.
And the universe like conspired to have me succeed. We summit the mountain. We start going down, but my feet kept jamming into the front of the boot because they
Well,
were so
yeah.
big.
Yeah.
So for part of the way down, I'm like butt scooting on my butt to go down the
Oh
hill
my
because my
God.
feet hurt so bad. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is so embarrassing. If someone was watching this, they're like, you just are climbing the second hardest mountain or tallest mountain in Europe, and you're scooting on your butt to get down it.
Yeah.
I'm like, it
So
doesn't matter. I'm done. I'm safe. I'm home. It's fine.
you got it done. And then the next one.
The next one was Antarctica.
Okay, that was different.
Yes, that was magic. I was scared of Antarctica. I was scared because the North Face athletic team went the year before COVID
Okay.
and they didn't summit. So I'm like, oh my goodness, we have all these professional athletes there. They didn't summit. The year before, we didn't have any knowledge on it because it was closed to COVID. So we were the first team in, and they only allow one person to climb this mountain a year. So it was
Wow.
myself, 4 guides, and we got there. It is a 18 hour, well, before us, it was longer, but our summit day was an 18-hour day. And it's ice climbing, it's hiking, it's all the things. And we were, I think, the 20th people to summit. So maybe like 15 to 20. I
Wow.
was the second female ever to climb it. There was one female before me that was a guide. So I was the
Wow.
first one that wasn't a guide. So you just don't have the notes, right? Like, and
Exactly.
because the weather changes so much, you don't know, is that the rock they're talking about? Or is that a new rock because there's less snow? Or is there no rock there because now there's more snow? No one had seen the mountain in a couple years. So, and you're an airplane flight away from any rescue.
Yeah.
So you cannot make mistakes
If
because they're
if you get
probably
in
not going to,
if you get in trouble, you're in real trouble.
you're in real trouble. I'll never forget when that airplane dropped us off in this little spot. We had to pound down all the snow so
Yeah.
that it became a hard surface. And
Yeah.
we set up the tent, and then the airplane left. I'm like, oh, we are in no man's land. Like there is
Exactly.
nothing here.
Alone.
Because in Antarctica, there's no life. Like so
No.
you don't have bugs or birds or plants or anything. You have no
Nothing.
trees. You have nothing. It's just so it's like a white desert.
Yeah. And but
Yeah.
you were going to do it though.
Yeah,
And
I'm in.
and you did it. And then the next one was Canada, Logan, or
Yeah, the next one was Canada, Logan, and we didn't summit, right?
no?
We got into bad weather. That mountain's a stinker. So we got into bad weather and had to come home. And then I went back to K2, had success. So summited K2 in July of 2022.
But that gave you some difficulty personally, right? You developed
Anthrax.
anthrax, but you didn't know.
I didn't know. I
No.
know.
And so I saw the video that you
Yes.
have. You
Yes.
were in deep trouble,
Yes.
meaning, you were uh, breaking down and still wanting to go, but it was a point of turning around or continuing, and but you were in some serious difficulty, and I felt terrible watching you. Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't know I had anthrax
No.
because I just kept telling myself that I had a bad stomach and
Right.
I ate something. And so then my body was just trying to get rid of this thing.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'm going to be the person that has to go to the bathroom a whole bunch of times when I'm climbing the mountain.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to do
It
it.
is what it is, right?
Yeah, it is what it is. And nothing was really working. And I left that mountain because my kids
Yeah.
got into trouble at home.
Yeah.
And I at first was so mad at them. I'm like, you guys have no idea how spoiled and how lucky you are. You hold out. And when I got to the hospital back in the United States, my doctor said, he goes, you're alive because those kids
It
were
saved
quit.
your life.
They
Yeah.
saved your life. He
So
goes, if you would have been there still, you'd be dead.
what is anthrax?
So anthrax is a bacterial infection. It's naturally in farm animals, especially in third world countries. And if you encounter it naturally, the chances of you having any problems with it are like slim to none because you
Right.
have so much good bacteria that will beat it out. But
Right.
what had happened to me is that I got giardia on the hike in, which is very common in Pakistan.
What is that?
And so then it's like bad water.
Okay.
And okay, so then it causes you to have diarrhea and throw up and like
Right.
lose everything. And you go on ciprofloxacin. So I
Okay.
went on Cipro, but I went on a dose that was probably too strong for my weight.
Okay.
And so then it knocked out all my good and all my bad bacteria.
Okay.
Okay, so then all of a sudden the farm animals, like the donkeys and stuff, are carrying our bags into base camp.
Right.
And I'm the person who's always worried about the animals. Did someone
Sure.
feed them? Did they get water? Like, is
Sure.
everybody
Sure.
okay?
Yeah. Sure.
And so then when I was by those animals, that bacteria, like they cough and it's in your system.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
normally you would be able to fight it off, but I didn't have anything to fight off good or bad.
Right.
So then I got the anthrax and it started acting like a stomach thing.
Right.
So then I went on an antibiotic again, but I went on for like 5 days. And if you have anthrax in your system, you need to go on for like 30 days.
Exactly.
So then what would happen is it would kick the bacteria back. So I'd feel good for a day or two,
Right.
but then that bacteria would grow even more.
Yeah.
And then the doctor's like, we can't keep putting you on this medication. It's not working.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, fine, I won't. And I just like muscled through it. I lost 35 pounds.
Oof. My goodness.
Yeah, it was bad.
So then you couldn't summit because something was happening at home that concerned you, needed your attention. So you made your way back to Parksville, Utah, because of that. And then when you got there, you want to see the doc, and he more or less told you that if this would not have happened, you likely would have died.
Yeah. No, so I did summit. Like I went
Okay.
all the way to the top of K2 and then I came
Regardless.
down and then I went all the way back out, but I went back home faster than what I normally would have. Like we doubled down on the days so I could get home.
Okay.
And then when I got home, the doctor's like, that's the best thing that happened to you because they wouldn't know to test you for this. It's interesting when you come back to the United States and if you're sick, they're going to ask you, have you been by farm animals?
Okay.
And I said, yeah. I said, no, I wasn't by farm animals. I was climbing a mountain. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, no, I was by farm animals. They
donkeys.
carry our stuff in. Yes.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes. He goes, I know what to test you for. And it came back and he's like, I knew it. He goes, 40% of people who have this die.
Wow.
He's like, you have no idea how close you are, especially with how light I was getting. Like I was now all of a sudden, I had a hard time holding water and things like that in.
It started really affecting your whole system, right?
My whole system. Like when I was flying home, I kept getting like dizzy and I wanted to pass out.
Oh,
And I thought
wow.
it was from the airplane, right?
Yeah,
Like I was on an airplane for 14 hours. Of course, my
sure.
body doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But then when I laid down at home and the next morning, I was like, I need to go in. This isn't right. Nothing's getting better.
So then, once they gave you medication for it, you
Hmm.
recovered fairly quickly after that from, relatively
Yes.
speaking. Yeah.
Yes. So they put me on this really strong antibiotic called viamycin. I mean, it's like insanity strength. And by 2 days, it was like I could hold water, I could eat food, I could do whatever. And then I was on that antibiotic for 6 weeks. And then once I was done with that antibiotic, I worked with a nutritionist to get your bacteria back, right?
Right.
Because you need to
Yeah.
build healthy bacteria. And so
Exactly.
then it was like, how are you eating spinach and greens and
All of
kale
that,
and
right?
strawberries and everything like raw and healthy that
Right.
had bacteria that you wanted?
Exactly. So now you had completed, we were just at Logan. So when you did
Yep.
Logan, that was number 7.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now, did you feel that you had accomplished something that is unique and made you unique as a climber in the world? There was no one that had done this before you. Did you fully appreciate what had happened?
No.
And no,
No, because you're like, I'm the same. I mean, you're definitely, I mean, it took me 2.5 years,
right?
right? So it took me 2.5 years to do it. So over that period of time, you're changing. Like every mountain, whether it's
Yeah,
physical or metaphorical, it changes us as individuals. And when I got to the top of the last one, it was almost like, I can't believe it's over. Like I don't even know what to do with this. Like like it's so bizarre that it's done because
yeah,
it'd been my compass for 2.5 years.
exactly.
Yeah.
So how has it been since? You know, the kids are all good, and you now kind of have been returning to semi-normal for you.
Yeah.
So what have you been done since, other than obviously a lot of people, including myself, are very interested in talking and interacting with you because what it shows is the elements of determination,
Yes.
staying the course no matter what, even to the extent that it nearly killed you, obviously. But you
Right.
know that every single climb would be for anybody really to do the climb. You have to be physically in shape, and you have to have that determination, you know, to continue.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
so unique. I know you're writing a book or going to write a book. That's a
Yeah.
good
I have
thing.
the book. Book's coming. Yep. Right
Oh,
here.
is it ready already?
Well, it's available like pre-order right now. So it's not available until January 9. The book is titled Quit Proof: 7 Strategies to Build Resilience and Achieve Your Life Goals. And I named it Quit Proof, I swear, because I wanted to quit writing it at least 100 times.
Right, right.
It's
Yeah,
hard to write a book.
I
It's a lot
know.
of work.
No,
Yes, you're an author yourself. You
I
get it.
am. I'm going to show you the books. I'm going to send you copies of it. I did,
Please.
yeah, I did one against all odds. You know, it's about not hoorah, hoorah, John, how well he did, but in spite of it all the ups and downs that along life to build. My dream was to go to Canada and start with nothing, and then I could speak the language. I didn't know a soul. I didn't have a job, and to build my own companies and a lumber mill. And the story is in here. A lot of people said to me, "You have to write a book," as they did to you, likely.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I never wrote a book in my life, and you know, I said it took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2 years to write it. and it's an autobiography. And you can't do it in saying, okay, I wrote it, it's not quite what I thought it would be, so I'll throw this one out, I'll write another one. No, you only get one try on it, so, but quite popular. I'm going to send you a copy of it. The other part that I should mention quickly to you about books is that I was not very successful academically. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times. So I started working when I was 14 in
wow.
Holland. And then I was born in 1940, was part of the Second World War. Fairly tough go in the northern part of Holland, and affected me in the PTSD in a child, all those other things. And then it took me till I was 57 that I found a book about in a store here, and it was called Driven to Distraction. It was about ADHD. I'm a classic example of ADHD.
Me too.
You like
Yes.
it? I'm going to send
I
you a
do.
book. And
I have
so
ADHD so bad.
I like it because I call it a superpower. Obviously, you're a perfect example of that. And
Yes.
so, but it took me till I felt I had been a failure. And I wanted to always go to Canada because the Canadians liberated us in Holland. So when I was 5 years old, and I always wanted to go to the land of my heroes. And then the other part was that I failed in school because grade 3, I failed in grade 7 3 times, got a job when I was 14. Actually, they said to my parents, well, maybe send them to the mentally challenged school. Fortunately, they didn't do that. So they said, we should get him a job. So they sent me to a furniture factory, and I became a furniture maker. And then, but still in Holland, it was that if you want to support a family and buy the house and all these other things that people do, then they say, and you get a job, then they say, okay, where are your diplomas? Well, I didn't have any diplomas. So I felt like I had been a failure until then I went to Canada and then started with nothing. When I came here off the bus, my employees gave that to me. I had in my pocket, I couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul. I had $25.47.
I love it.
But what's important to me is, though, and you can relate to that, what I did have is attitude, avoid the negative, passion, work ethic, but follows the success. And so since that time, I'm not bragging about it, but I have about 10 different companies, and and I've done quite well actually. And obviously, I'm also an author and I'm a professional speaker, and on all kinds of different occasions. And then I'm a very active podcaster, and I just love it. I want to show you one more thing that I like. I find so many people do not like their jobs or do not like what they are doing. So I wrote another book about it that came out in July, and Finding Your Passion, Living the Dream. I'm going to send you a copy of this one too.
Yes.
And then
love it.
Writing another one that's coming out next June, and that is Living Young, Dying Old. Staying physically fit, and I want to live till I'm 120.
I love it. You can. Yeah. I believe you. If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be you. I'm going to be there for those birthday parties.
And you too. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of what is happening in my life, and
it's amazing.
And so, how about you now? After all of that, and then writing the book, you nearly got it complete. Not an easy challenge, is it?
Not an easy challenge. I'll take the mountains over book writing any day. You must have found a passion and you keep writing them. I don't know if that's going to be me.
Well, the advantage that I have after I'm a good writer regardless of my background, and I'm good on numbers. And so once I started, and then I have a good team around me. I want to write at least one book a year. and as long as I can about different topics that I feel strong about. And then I love the podcasting, the interaction, and I like to be a public speaker and speak in all kinds of mainly young people and people that I can inspire, and as you do.
Yes, yes. Now, do you get back to Holland at all, or do you mainly always stay in Canada?
No, I do go back to Holland. I used to go about twice a year, and then it kind of stopped during COVID. And
Yeah.
I haven't been back since beginning of COVID, but I still have an apartment there. I still like to go back, but I love Canada. So,
I
but
love Canada. I
yeah,
do. When I got off of Mount Logan the last time, this is the best story. We get picked up by the airplane, we get to the hangar, and then we go to Haynes Junction. And
yes,
there's a little hotel that's connected to like basically a gas station. And they're like, hey, listen, there's a restaurant across the street that serves dinner till 9. We get there at 8:31 p.m. They turned the grill off at 8:30, and we could not convince them to cook us a burger. I'm like, no, 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 you don't understand. I've eaten like frozen dried food for the last 2 weeks.
oh
Like,
my God,
please.
I need it.
And they wouldn't do it. But there's these guys in the bar who had just ordered dinner. They were up there on a fishing trip, and they gave us their food, and they ordered off the menu that didn't require the grill. And I'm like, this is Canada. These people are absolutely amazing. And then I flew to Vancouver for a few days before coming home. Oh,
Yes,
what a city. What a city.
yeah, it's a beautiful. The British Columbia is a beautiful province. It is
Oh,
huge and big,
pretty.
and I love it here. And I've lived here now for nearly 60 years, and I fly a lot in different locations. And I sit always by the window. I look outside and say it's paradise. And
It's
be
so
so
pretty.
lucky in North America. Really, you look around the world and Europe and other places that I know is saying we are very, very fortunate, to live
Yeah.
here.
Oh, we are very fortunate. Definitely. So
So
fun.
where do you go from here after all of this, Jen?
I'm
You're still
I'm
so
letting that.
young.
I am young. We're going to
Yeah,
get more stuff done. I promise. Right now, what I'm excited about is getting the book out.
yeah.
I'm going to take 3 of my boys to go on a climbing trip in February. So
Wow.
I'm super excited about that. I was in South Africa earlier this year, and I took my daughters on a trip, and we were climbing Table Mountain. And the guide said, hey, you do know this is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. If you want to go visit the natural wonders, I'm like, you know what? You might be onto something. I'm just not committing to anything yet.
Yeah,
So,
I like it. So
yes, yes.
So you can see that as part of going forward. Have you been fairly active on social media and speaking circuit or things
I
like that?
love speaking. I love speaking. I love the energy of the crowd. I love like the whole exchange and the aha moments. So speaking is one of my favorite things. This weekend, I'm leading a hike in my area to help people just unplug from the world and get out in nature. So I love spending time in nature with other people. And yeah, I know something else big's going to call me. I'm just kind of enjoying this little coasting period for a little bit.
Yeah. So the other part, and so we connected that. So we're going to send you the books. The, One of the things that happened to me is that has become a big part of my life is being active on in regards to ADHD. I believe it is still has stigma around it, and I've written the book that has been quite popular. But the other part I speak about wherever the opportunity presents itself, I call it a superpower. And with all the things that I've done here and still do, running about 10 different companies, then I'm public speaking things, podcasting, writing books. People say to me, how can you do it? I say it's ADHD.
It is. It is. It's a superpower. It
It's
truly is. When you don't like blame yourself for having it and you recognize like I need to have a lot of things going on for me to feel good, all of a sudden you can be like, okay, I'm going to put this down and I'm gonna come back to it. I'm gonna pick this up and I need to move. I have a lot of energy. I am high octane.
I do too, and so what I say to people is, even at I'm 83 now. I'm active also in the gym. Up to 2017, I had something that that everybody gets a shock in their life that kind of changes direction. I had a case of diverticulitis, and you're familiar with that. And I had a breach, and then you have about 48 hours until it will potentially kill you. And I had a high threshold for pain, which was not good. So anyway, I got to a doctor in time, and so they were able to fix me. And then I thought, I'm going to have to change my life a bit, be much more active in my diet and then in the gym. So, and I became much more active in the gym then, and gradually after working with the trainer. So I did that for about 6-7 years, and then one day somebody came to me and said, hey John, have you ever thought about competing? I said, me? And that put on the light. I said, oh, I like that. And so I started competing, and then for a couple of years, and then started competition in northern BC, came in bodybuilding, and came in second in bodybuilding here and third in physique, which qualified me for the provincials. And then came in third in physique, second in bodybuilding, qualified me for the nationals and the Arnolds. And, and then obviously COVID happened.
Right.
So now I'm back again training, and again want to compete for the provincials and then the nationals and the Arnolds. And I've already been in touch with Arnold. I'm going to be there in 2024 when I'm 84 years old. I'm the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America.
Woohoo! I love this. I'm
it.
so happy about this right now. This is amazing.
So with all those things combined, I enjoy life, and every day to me is a beautiful day. I usually get up at 5:30 in the mornings, and then I'm always in a hurry. I'm already late when I get up. I always make my bed, and then that's what I do. And then I solve problems and that occur, and then enjoy life, do podcasting, do public speaking, and work with young people in particular. I love it, so.
I love this.
And the key is to stay fit, healthy, mentally, physically, and keep writing books.
I like it. You know what? And it helps when you take care of what's between the ears.
Exactly.
Everything else is possible. Like, this is what we need to get a control of, and then we can have anything that these fingers can create.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Jen, anything else that comes to mind?
I just want to say thank you for sharing your audience and sharing your time. It's been a wonderful pleasure to be here tonight.
And it was a privilege to have you on my podcast. Let's stay in touch. I'll send you my book, sign them for you, and then we'll stay in touch as we go forward.
I would love that. Thank you so much, my friend.
Okay, Jen, take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.